The frontier never truly dies, it just fades into memory. Let's drift through the dusty trails and sun-scorched plains of Red Dead Redemption, the 2010 masterpiece that defined what an open-world Western could be. These are the facts, the secrets, the little touches that make this dying frontier feel so achingly alive. The year is 1911, and the Old West is breathing its last. John Marston rides through a world that's changing faster than anyone can comprehend. The railroads have connected the coasts. The automobile is beginning to appear on city streets. The frontier that once seemed endless has been mapped, claimed, and civilized. John is a relic of a dying age, an outlaw trying to leave his past behind, only to find that the past won't let him go. Red Dead Redemption was released on May 18, 2010, for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The game was developed by Rockstar San Diego over approximately 5 years, with assistance from other Rockstar studios around the world. The development was notoriously difficult, with reports of long hours and intense pressure to achieve the studio's vision. It would be over a decade before the game finally came to PC and Nintendo Switch in 2023, a wait that tested the patience of fans who wanted to experience the frontier on their preferred platforms. The game uses the Rage engine, the same technology that powered Grand Theft Auto 4, but significantly modified to handle the vast open landscapes of the American frontier. The Euphoria animation system creates dynamic responses to impacts and environmental interactions. Characters don't simply play canned animations when hit, they respond based on the specific circumstances of each impact. The technical achievement of rendering such a massive, detailed world on the hardware of 2010 was remarkable, pushing the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 to their absolute limits. John Marston himself is voiced by Rob Weithoff, an actor with no prior voice acting experience before being cast in the role. Weithoff brought a weary authenticity to John, a man who has seen too much and done too much, who wants nothing more than to be left alone with his family. After completing Red Dead Redemption, Weithoff retired from acting entirely, returning to his life outside the entertainment industry. He would return 8 years later to voice John again in Red Dead Redemption 2, bringing the character full circle. The supporting cast matches his quality. Kimberly Irian voices Bonnie McFarlane with warmth and strength. Josh Blaylock brings youthful innocence to Jack Marston, and Benjamin Byron Davis delivers Dutch van der Linde with the same charisma and menace he would later bring to the prequel. The scars that mark John's face tell their own story. According to the game's lore, these distinctive wounds were inflicted by wolves when John was young, a brutal encounter that left him marked for life. The scars became iconic, as recognizable as John himself, a visual reminder that this is a man who has survived things that would have killed others. In Red Dead Redemption 2, we actually see the wolf attack that created these scars, connecting the two games in a visceral, physical way. The map of Red Dead Redemption is divided into 3 distinct regions, each with its own character and challenges. New Austin represents the American Southwest, a land of desert and scrubland, of small towns clinging to existence in the harsh landscape. Nuevo Paraíso takes players across the border into Mexico, where revolution simmers and the rules are different. West Elizabeth represents the American Midwest, greener and more settled, where civilization has taken firmer hold. Together, these regions create a world of approximately 12 square miles, one of the largest open worlds of its generation. New Austin is where John's journey begins, a land that feels like the classic Western brought to life. The town of Armadillo serves as the first major hub, a rough settlement where cowboys and outlaws rub shoulders in the saloon. Fort Mercer looms in the distance, the stronghold where Bill Williamson has holed up, the first target in John's forced mission. The McFarlane Ranch is where John recovers after being shot at the game's beginning, left for dead by the very man he came to capture. Bonnie McFarlane finds him and nurses him back to health, asking nothing in return except honest work. The ranch becomes a tutorial of sorts, teaching players the rhythms of frontier life, herding cattle, breaking horses, protecting the land from predators. Blackwater represents the future that's overtaking the frontier. The city is larger and more modern than any other settlement in the game, with paved streets, electric lights, and automobiles beginning to appear. The cinema in Blackwater shows short films that parody silent movie conventions, reflecting the era's fascination with the new medium of film. It's also where John's story ends, the modern world finally catching up with the last of the outlaws. The story that drives John forward is simple but powerful. The Bureau of Investigation, the organisation that would later become the FBI, has taken John's family hostage. His wife Abigail and son Jack are being held as leverage, forcing John to hunt down his former gang members. It's a devil's bargain. Betray the men who were once his brothers, or lose the family he's trying to protect. The government agents who make this deal, Edgar Ross and Archer Fordham, represent the new order that's replacing the old, a bureaucratic power that is more dangerous than any outlaw gang. Bill Williamson is the first target, a former member of Dutch's gang who has established his own criminal operation at Fort Mercer. Bill was never the smartest member of the gang, but he was loyal and capable of extreme violence. In the years since the gang's dissolution, he's become paranoid and brutal, surrounding himself with men who fear him. John's attempt to confront Bill peacefully ends with a bullet, setting the tone for everything that follows. Marshall Lee Johnson represents law and order in Armadillo, a man trying to maintain civilization in a lawless land. He's competent and principled, a contrast to the corrupt officials John encounters elsewhere. Johnson's missions introduce John to the complexities of frontier justice, where the line between law and lawlessness is often blurred. His respect for John grows as they work together, recognizing a kindred spirit despite their different paths. Seth Briers is one of the most memorable characters John encounters in New Austin, a grave robber obsessed with finding a mythical treasure. His madness is played for dark comedy, but there's tragedy beneath the surface, a man who has lost everything to his obsession. Irish is another unforgettable figure, a drunk and a liar who nonetheless proves useful to John's mission. Nigel West Dickens is a snake oil salesman, peddling miracle cures that cure nothing, yet he's genuinely helpful when John needs him. These characters represent the colourful rogues who populated the frontier, survivors who got by on charm and luck rather than skill or honour. The journey to Mexico comes after John's efforts in New Austin prove insufficient. Javier Escuela, another former gang member, has fled across the border and John must follow. The crossing into Nuevo Paraíso is one of gaming's most memorable moments, accompanied by the song Far Away by Jose Gonzalez. The music swells as John rides through the unfamiliar landscape, the lyrics speaking of distance and longing. It's a perfect marriage of gameplay and soundtrack, a moment that players remember years later. Mexico is caught in the grip of revolution, and John finds himself pulled into conflicts that have nothing to do with his mission. Colonel Allende represents the corrupt government, a man who maintains power through brutality and fear. Abraham Reyes leads the rebels, a charismatic figure who speaks of freedom and justice, but whose motivations may be more self-serving than he admits. John works both sides, doing whatever is necessary to get closer to Javier and, eventually, to Dutch van der Linde himself. The De Santa brothers represent the corruption that infects both sides of the revolution. Captain Vicente de Santa serves Colonel Allende, carrying out brutal orders without question. The brothers demonstrate that family ties mean little when power is at stake, a theme that resonates throughout John's story. Luisa Fortuna is one of the game's most tragic figures, a young woman devoted to Abraham Reyes and the revolutionary cause. Her idealism is genuine, her sacrifice real, but Reyes barely notices her existence. Luisa's fate is one of the game's most affecting moments, a reminder that revolutions consume their true believers while the opportunists survive. Landon Ricketts lives in Mexico, a legendary gunslinger who has retired to a quiet life far from his reputation. Ricketts was once the fastest drawer in the West, a man whose name was spoken with reverence and fear. Now he's old, his glory days behind him, but his skills remain sharp. He teaches John advanced combat techniques, passing on the knowledge of a dying breed. Ross Hagen, a real Western film actor, voices Landon Ricketts, adding authenticity to the legendary gunslinger. Ricketts represents what John might have become if he'd stayed on the outlaw path, a man defined entirely by his ability to kill. Dutch van der Linde is the final target, the leader of the gang that John once called family. By 1911, Dutch has retreated to the mountains with a small band of followers, his grand dreams of freedom reduced to desperate survival. The Dutch we meet in Red Dead Redemption is a shadow of the man he once was, paranoid and violent. His philosophy twisted into something dark. The confrontation between John and Dutch is the emotional climax of the game. Two men who once loved each other as brothers facing each other across an unbridgeable divide. The Professor, Harold McDougall, represents Eastern academic attitudes toward the frontier. His theories about savage peoples are presented critically, the game using his character to comment on the racism and condescension that characterized much frontier scholarship. McDougall's interactions with Native Americans reveal more about his own limitations than about the people he claims to study. The Native American presence in the game is limited but acknowledged. The frontier was built on land taken from indigenous peoples, and the game doesn't ignore this history. The ending of Red Dead Redemption is one of the most impactful in gaming history. John completes his mission, delivers the men the government wanted, and returns to his family at Beecher's Hope. For a brief, beautiful time, he lives the life he always wanted, working the ranch, teaching his son to hunt, loving his wife. The missions during this period are deliberately peaceful, a contrast to the violence that preceded them. It feels like an ending, like John has finally found peace. But the government doesn't keep its promises. Edgar Ross returns with an army, surrounding the ranch, determined to tie up the loose end that John represents. Uncle is the first to die, shot down as the attack begins. The lazy old man with his terminal lumbago proving loyal to the end. John sends Abigail and Jack to safety, then walks out to face the firing squad alone. The final mission, the last enemy that shall be destroyed, is unwinnable by design. Players can activate Deadeye, can kill many of the soldiers facing them, but the outcome is predetermined. John Marston dies in a hail of bullets, his body riddled with wounds, his blood soaking into the ground of the ranch he fought so hard to protect. The game continues after John's death, with players taking control of his son Jack. 3 years have passed. Abigail has died of unknown causes. Her grave beside John's on the hill overlooking the ranch. Jack is alone now, the last of the Marstons, carrying the weight of everything his parents sacrificed. The inscription on John's grave reads, "Blessed are the peacemakers," a bitter irony for a man who was never allowed to find peace. Abigail Marston is the heart of John's motivation, the woman he loves, and the mother of his son. Their relationship is complicated, marked by John's past failures and Abigail's justified resentments. But the love between them is real, tested by hardship and proven by sacrifice. Abigail's death after John's, mentioned but not shown, completes the tragedy. The family John died to protect doesn't survive him by much. Jack Marston inherits his father's legacy, for better and worse. The boy we see in the game is innocent, curious, full of potential. The young man who takes over after John's death is harder, shaped by loss and violence. His killing of Edgar Ross suggests that he's become what his father feared: another outlaw, another killer. The cycle that John tried to break continues through his son. Edgar Ross is the face of the government's betrayal, the man who makes the deal with John and then breaks it. Ross is not a simple villain. He believes he's doing the right thing, bringing order to a lawless land. But his methods are ruthless, and his promises are worthless. The satisfaction of killing him as Jack is tempered by the knowledge that it changes nothing. Ross is dead, but the system he served continues. The gameplay systems of Red Dead Redemption were revolutionary for their time and remain impressive today. The Deadeye targeting system allows players to slow down time and mark multiple targets for rapid shooting, a mechanic that captures the mythic speed of Western gunslingers. The system has 3 levels that unlock as the story progresses, at first simply slowing time, then allowing target marking, and finally permitting manual target painting for elaborate shot sequences. The weapons available to John span the full range of frontier armaments. Revolvers like the Cattleman and the Schofield provide reliable sidearms. Rifles like the Winchester Repeater and the Rolling Block offer range and power. Shotguns deliver devastating close-range damage. The game even includes more exotic options like throwing knives and dynamite. Each weapon has its own feel, its own strengths and weaknesses, encouraging players to adapt their loadout to different situations. The lasso is perhaps the most iconic tool in John's arsenal, a rope that can be used to capture animals and people alike. Hog-tied victims can be left on train tracks, carried on horseback, or delivered to the authorities for bounties. The lasso enables non-lethal approaches to many situations, allowing players to capture bounty targets alive for bonus rewards. It's also essential for breaking wild horses, a process that requires patience and skill. Horses are central to the Red Dead experience, serving as transportation, companion, and status symbol. The game features numerous horse breeds, each with different stats for speed, stamina, and health. Wild horses can be found throughout the world and tamed through a breaking minigame. The bond between rider and horse develops over time, with well-bonded horses becoming more responsive and reliable. Whistling calls your horse from a distance, the range increasing as the bond strengthens. Losing a horse you've bonded with is genuinely painful, a reminder that attachment has costs in this world. John notably cannot swim, a limitation that reflects historical reality and creates gameplay challenges requiring bridges or shallow crossings. The morality system tracks John's choices through two separate metrics: honour and fame. Honour reflects John's moral standing, increasing when he helps people and decreasing when he harms them. High honour brings discounts at stores, friendly greetings from townsfolk, and a sense that John is becoming the man he wants to be. Low honour brings fear and hostility, higher prices, and the knowledge that John is falling back into old patterns. Fame measures how well known John has become, increasing as he completes missions and activities. A famous John is recognised wherever he goes, for better or worse. The wanted system creates consequences for criminal behaviour. Committing crimes in view of witnesses raises John's bounty, which accumulates until paid off at telegraph offices or worked off through good deeds. Higher bounties bring more aggressive law enforcement, from local sheriffs to federal marshals. Bandanas can be worn to reduce witness identification, but they're not foolproof. The witness system creates moments of decision. Let the witness go and accept the bounty, or silence them and add murder to the charges. Bounty hunting is one of the game's most engaging activities, allowing John to pursue wanted criminals for cash rewards. Wanted posters at sheriff's offices provide targets, each with their own location and difficulty. Some bounties can be captured alive for bonus rewards, requiring the use of the lasso and careful approach. Others are too dangerous to take alive and must be killed. The bounty hunting system provides a steady source of income and a reason to explore the world's more remote locations. The cover system allows John to take shelter behind objects during gunfights, reducing his exposure to enemy fire. The system encourages tactical thinking, with players using the environment strategically. Blind firing from cover is possible, but less accurate than aim shots, rewarding players who take risks to aim properly. The melee combat provides options for close quarters encounters. John can punch, tackle, and use his knife when enemies get too close. The stealth mechanics allow for alternative approaches, with John able to crouch and move quietly to avoid detection. The duel system captures the mythology of the Western showdown, the moment of tension before the draw, the split second that determines life or death. The system makes these moments feel earned. Duels are initiated through story moments and random encounters, testing reflexes and accuracy. Winning a duel feels like a demonstration of skill, a connection to the genre's deepest traditions. The physics engine creates realistic interactions throughout the world. Characters react believably to impacts and falls, their bodies responding to the forces applied to them. The Euphoria technology creates dynamic animations based on the environment. No two deaths look exactly the same. The physics add weight and consequence to combat, making every shot feel impactful. The ragdoll effects can be darkly comic or genuinely disturbing depending on the situation. The stranger missions scattered throughout the world offer some of the game's most memorable content. These optional side quests feature morally complex storylines that often subvert expectations. A seemingly simple request might lead to dark revelations. A character who appears trustworthy might prove to be anything but. The strange man is perhaps the most mysterious figure in the game, appearing in 3 stranger missions that raise more questions than they answer. He knows things about John that he shouldn't know, speaks of the future with unsettling certainty, and seems to exist outside normal reality. Many fans theorize that the strange man is death, God, or the devil. his true nature deliberately left ambiguous. His cabin can be found in Red Dead Redemption 2, connecting the two games through this enigmatic figure. A painting in the cabin gradually reveals his face over time, one of the game's most unsettling details. The stranger mission, American Appetites, reveals one of the game's darkest secrets. A seemingly respectable man asks John to help him find his missing wife. The investigation leads to a horrifying discovery. The man is a cannibal who has been murdering and eating people. The mission subverts expectations, turning a rescue mission into a confrontation with genuine evil. The cannibal's calm demeanour makes him all the more disturbing, a monster hiding behind a civilized facade. The stranger mission, Daedalus and Son, follows a father and son attempting to build a flying machine. The mission is touching and tragic, a story of ambition and loss. The father's dream of flight represents the human desire to transcend limitations, to achieve the impossible. The mission's conclusion is bittersweet, a reminder that dreams often come at a cost. The stranger mission, Lights Camera Action, introduces D.S. McKenna, a filmmaker trying to capture the authentic West on camera. The mission comments on the mythology of the frontier, the way that stories and images shape our understanding of history. McKenna's films are staged and artificial, but they'll become how future generations understand the Old West. The mission is both comic and melancholy, acknowledging that the real frontier is dying while its legend is being born. The stranger mission, California, follows a man trying to reach the promised land of the West Coast. His journey is plagued by misfortune, each encounter finding him in worse circumstances than before. The mission is darkly comic, a parody of the optimism that drove westward expansion. The man's faith in California as paradise is touching and tragic, a reminder that the frontier was built on dreams that often ended in disappointment. The stranger mission, Love is the Opiate, follows a man addicted to morphine struggling with his dependency. The mission treats addiction with surprising sensitivity, showing the human cost of substance abuse without moralizing. The man's struggle is sympathetic, his weakness understandable. The mission adds depth to the game's portrayal of frontier life, acknowledging the darker aspects of the era. The stranger mission, Who Are You to Judge?, involves a man seeking revenge for his murdered wife. The mission explores themes of justice and vengeance, asking whether killing in response to killing solves anything. The man's grief is genuine, his desire for revenge understandable, but the mission suggests that violence only breeds more violence, that revenge provides no real closure. The themes connect to John's own story, his own cycle of violence and consequence. The stranger mission, Remember My Family, provides the game's final closure. Jack, now grown, tracks down Edgar Ross to avenge his father's death. The mission is optional but feels necessary, a chance to confront the man who destroyed John's family. The duel with Ross is satisfying in the moment, but the implications are troubling. Jack has become what his father feared, another killer, another outlaw. The cycle of violence continues and the Marston legacy ends in blood. The stranger mission, The Prohibitionist, introduces a temperance advocate trying to rid the frontier of alcohol. The mission is comic, the advocate's zealotry played for laughs, but there's also commentary on the social movements that would eventually lead to prohibition, the well-meaning crusades that often caused more harm than good. The mission connects the game's 1911 setting to the broader sweep of American history. The stranger mission, Aztec Gold, sends John searching for legendary treasure. The mission is an adventure in the classic sense, a treasure hunt through dangerous territory. The gold itself is less important than the journey, the excuse to explore remote corners of the world. The mission captures the frontier dream of instant wealth, the hope that drove so many to risk everything for the chance at fortune. The stranger mission, Funny Man, involves a comedian whose jokes keep getting him into trouble. The mission is light and humorous, a contrast to the game's darker content. The comedian's struggles reflect the challenges of entertainment on the frontier, where audiences were rough and criticism could be violent. The mission provides comic relief while still fitting the game's world and tone. These stranger missions, scattered throughout the world, provide some of the game's most memorable content. They reward exploration and engagement, offering stories that stand alongside the main narrative in quality and impact. The strangers are not just quest givers, but characters with their own lives, their own dreams, their own tragedies. They make the world feel populated and alive, full of stories waiting to be discovered. The wildlife of Red Dead Redemption creates a living ecosystem that makes the world feel real. Over 40 animal species roam the frontier, from common deer to rare cougars. Animals follow realistic behavior patterns. Predators hunt prey, herds move together, and nocturnal animals appear at night. Cougars are among the most dangerous animals in the game, capable of attacking quickly and killing John in seconds. They're silent predators, often striking before the player even knows they're there. The terror of a cougar attack became legendary among players, a shared experience that united the community. Bears are equally dangerous, found in the northern regions, their massive size and strength making them formidable opponents. Wolves hunt in packs, coordinating their attacks to bring down prey. The pack behavior creates tense encounters, with multiple threats approaching from different directions. Snakes lurk in the grass, their bites requiring immediate treatment. The variety of predators creates genuine tension in the wilderness, a reminder that nature is not always peaceful. The deer and elk that roam the plains provide hunting opportunities and contribute to the sense of a living ecosystem. Their behavior is realistic. They graze, they flee from threats, they move in herds. The bison that once covered the plains are rare in 1911. Their near extinction a reminder of how the frontier has changed. Finding and hunting bison becomes a quest in itself. The birds that fill the skies include hawks, eagles, vultures, and countless smaller species. Their calls provide audio atmosphere. Their flights add visual interest. Some birds can be hunted for their feathers, which have value to merchants. The variety of bird species reflects the ecological diversity of the frontier. The hunting challenges push players to master different weapons and techniques. Some challenges require headshots with specific weapons. Others demand kills from horseback or at extreme range. The skinning animations that play when John harvests animals are detailed and somewhat graphic, reinforcing the reality of frontier life where hunting meant getting your hands dirty. The legendary animals provide ultimate hunting challenges. The legendary jackalope, a mythical creature from American folklore, appears rarely and rewards patient hunters. The gangs that control various territories provide ongoing threats and opportunities throughout John's journey. Walton's gang operates throughout New Austin, their members recognizable by their distinctive clothing. The Bollard Twins gang controls another region, their twin leaders never seen, adding mystery to their organization. The treasure hunters seek buried gold throughout the frontier, their maps leading to valuable caches. The Del Lobo gang operates in Mexico, taking advantage of the revolutionary chaos. Each gang has its own hideout that can be cleared for rewards, providing challenging combat encounters and satisfying loot. The gang hideouts are scattered throughout the world, each with its own layout and defences. Clearing a hideout requires careful approach and skilled combat. The hideouts respawn after time passes, providing repeatable content for players who enjoy the combat. The rewards for clearing hideouts include money, weapons, and reduced gang presence in the area. The outlaws who populate the various gangs are not simply enemies to be killed. Many have their own stories, their own reasons for choosing the outlaw life. Some are desperate, some are cruel, some are simply following the only path available to them. The outlaws mirror John's own past, reminding him of who he was and who he might have remained. The lawmen who pursue John when his bounty rises are doing their jobs, enforcing the law in a lawless land. Some are corrupt, some are principled, but all represent the system that John is trying to escape. The lawmen create tension and consequence, making John's criminal actions feel meaningful. The bounty targets John pursues each have their own stories, revealed through wanted posters and the circumstances of their capture. Some are clearly guilty, deserving of justice. Others are more ambiguous, their crimes perhaps justified by circumstance. The bounty system encourages players to consider the nature of justice on the frontier. The treasure hunting challenges involve finding maps and following clues to buried riches. The maps are hand-drawn, requiring interpretation and exploration to follow. 9 treasure hunter challenges test players' observation and deduction skills, each leading to increasingly valuable rewards. The treasures themselves are valuable, but the real reward is the journey, the excuse to explore remote corners of the world. The fishing in Red Dead Redemption is simpler than in its sequel, but it still provides a peaceful counterpoint to the violence. Various fish species can be caught in the rivers and lakes, each requiring different techniques. Fishing spots are scattered throughout the world, often in beautiful locations that reward exploration. The activity provides a moment of calm, a chance to appreciate the world's beauty without the pressure of combat or mission objectives. The ambient challenges provide long-term goals that encourage exploration and mastery. The challenges span multiple categories: hunting, sharpshooting, survivalist, and treasure hunting. Completing challenges unlocks rewards and contributes to overall completion percentage. The sharpshooter challenges test combat skills in specific ways. Some require headshots, others demand kills from specific distances or positions. The survivalist challenges focus on gathering plants and materials, encouraging exploration of the world's flora. The side activities available throughout the world provide endless diversions from the main story. Poker, blackjack, liar's dice, horseshoes, and five-finger filly can all be played in various locations. The liar's dice minigame is particularly well implemented, capturing the bluffing and psychology of the real game. The AI opponents have distinct personalities, some aggressive and some cautious. Five-finger filly tests reflexes and nerve, requiring players to stab between their fingers with increasing speed. The dangerous bravado of frontier entertainment, where men proved their courage through risky displays. The gambling activities create social spaces where John can interact with NPCs, overhearing conversations and absorbing the atmosphere of frontier life. The poker implementation allows for various strategies, from tight play to aggressive bluffing. The AI opponents vary in skill and style, creating different challenges at different tables. The poker games feel authentic, capturing the tension and excitement of real gambling. The elegant suit's ability to cheat adds another dimension, allowing players to tilt the odds in their favour. The horseshoes minigame provides a simpler diversion, testing accuracy and timing. The game is easy to learn but difficult to master, with skilled players able to achieve impressive scores. The horseshoes locations are often in pleasant settings, encouraging players to relax and enjoy the atmosphere. The minigame adds variety without demanding significant time investment. The elegant suit is one of several special outfits that can be unlocked, each providing unique benefits. Wearing the elegant suit allows John to cheat at poker without being caught. The bandito outfit makes Mexican authorities ignore John's crimes. The bureau uniform, unlocked at 100% completion, makes John immune to law enforcement entirely. These outfits reward exploration and completion, providing tangible benefits for dedicated players. Trains run on schedules throughout the game world, their routes connecting the major settlements. Players can ride trains as passengers, using them for fast travel between stations. They can also rob trains, holding up passengers and crew for their valuables. The train robberies are exciting set pieces, requiring players to manage multiple threats while collecting loot. The dueling system allows John to face opponents in quick draw showdowns, testing reflexes and accuracy. The system captures the mythology of the Western duel, the moment of tension before the draw, the split second that determines life or death. The random encounters that occur throughout the world create a sense of unpredictability in life. A man might be found bitten by a snake, desperately needing medicine. A woman might be stranded, her horse dead or stolen. Outlaws might set an ambush on a lonely road. These encounters happen organically as John travels, making every journey potentially eventful. Helping people in random encounters increases John's honour, while ignoring or harming them decreases it. The towns throughout the frontier each have their own character and services. General stores sell essential supplies, ammunition, medicine, provisions. Doctors provide medical services, healing John's injuries for a fee. Tailors offer clothing options that affect John's appearance. Saloons serve as social hubs where John can drink, gamble, and interact with the local population. Telegraph offices allow John to pay off bounties and save the game. The shopkeepers have their own personalities, greeting John differently based on his reputation and past interactions. Robbing a store has consequences, with the shopkeeper remembering the crime and potentially refusing service in the future. The law enforcement in each region operates differently, reflecting the varying levels of civilization. In New Austin, sheriffs and deputies maintain order with varying degrees of effectiveness. In Mexico, the army enforces the will of Colonel Allende with brutal efficiency. In West Elizabeth, federal marshals represent the growing power of the central government. The different law enforcement styles create distinct feels for each region. The soundtrack of Red Dead Redemption is one of its greatest achievements, composed by Bill Elm and Woody Jackson. The score blends traditional Western music with ambient soundscapes, creating an audio experience that perfectly complements the visual world. The music shifts dynamically based on gameplay, swelling during action sequences and fading to atmospheric tones during exploration. The composers created over 14 hours of original music for the game, an unprecedented amount for the time. The instrumentation reflects the game's setting and themes, Acoustic guitars, harmonicas and strings create the traditional Western sound. Electronic elements add a modern edge, reflecting the game's themes of change and progress. The music is never intrusive, always enhancing the experience without demanding attention. The licensed songs that play at key moments are unforgettable. Far Away by Jose Gonzalez accompanies the first ride into Mexico, its melancholy beauty perfectly capturing the sense of journey and distance. The song was chosen specifically for this moment, its lyrics and tone matching the emotional beat perfectly. Compass by Jamie Liddell plays during the ride back to John's ranch near the end of the game, its hopeful tone creating a false sense of security before the tragedy to come. Dead Man's Gun by Ashtar Command plays during the end credits, reflecting on John's fate with haunting clarity. These musical moments are among the most memorable in gaming history. The sound design extends beyond music to create a fully realised audio world. The clop of horse hooves changes based on the surface being crossed. Gunshots echo across canyons and valleys. Wildlife calls fill the wilderness with life. The wind whistles through desert canyons. Thunder rolls across the plains during storms. Every sound is carefully crafted to enhance immersion, making the world feel tangible and real. The weather system affects both visuals and gameplay, creating variety in the atmosphere. Rain slicks the ground and reduces visibility. Fog rolls across the landscape, creating eerie conditions. Thunderstorms bring dramatic lightning and dangerous conditions. Fire can spread through the world realistically when lanterns are shot or fire-based weapons are used. The day-night cycle transforms the world as the sun moves across the sky. Dawn brings soft light and the sounds of waking wildlife. Evening softens everything with golden light, and night brings darkness and danger with different animals emerging. The Ghost Train is one of the game's most famous Easter eggs, a spectral locomotive that can be seen at certain times near Butter Bridge. The train appears and disappears mysteriously, leaving no trace of its passage. Players have spent countless hours trying to understand the Ghost Train, developing theories about its meaning and origin. The mystery has never been officially explained, adding to the game's sense of wonder and strangeness. UFO sightings add another layer of mystery. Strange lights in the sky can be observed at certain locations and times, connecting to similar Easter eggs in other Rockstar games. The birds that fill the skies and trees create ambient life throughout the world. Their calls provide audio atmosphere. Their flights add visual interest. These animals are background details, but their presence makes the world feel more alive and inhabited. The stars that appear at night are not just decoration, but navigation aids for those who know how to read them. The night sky is beautiful, filled with more stars than most modern players have ever seen in real life. The moon cycles through phases affecting the brightness of nights. Full moons provide enough light to travel safely, while new moons create dangerous darkness. The ambient sounds of the wilderness create atmosphere without demanding attention. Birds call, insects chirp, wind whistles through canyons. The Undead Nightmare expansion, released in October 2010, reimagines the entire game world overrun by zombies. The expansion features its own storyline, in which John must find a cure for the zombie plague while searching for his infected family. The tone shifts from serious western to horror comedy, with the game embracing the absurdity of its premise while still delivering genuine scares. Undead Nightmare received critical acclaim and is considered one of the best DLCs ever made. The transformation of the familiar world into a nightmare landscape is remarkably effective. Towns that were once bustling with life are now overrun with the undead. Characters John knew are either dead, infected, or desperately fighting for survival. The contrast between the normal game and Undead Nightmare creates a sense of loss, of a world that has been irrevocably changed. The zombie types vary in behaviour and threat level. Standard zombies are slow but numerous, overwhelming through sheer numbers. Bolters are fast and aggressive, requiring quick reflexes to handle. Bruisers are tough and powerful, demanding significant firepower to bring down. Wretches spit acid from a distance, adding ranged threats to the horde. The variety keeps combat fresh throughout the expansion. The four horses of the apocalypse appear in Undead Nightmare, mythical steeds that can be tamed and ridden. War leaves a trail of fire and causes enemies to burst into flames. Famine has unlimited stamina and causes the undead to ignore the rider. Pestilence is nearly invulnerable to damage. Death kills any undead it touches instantly. Finding and taming these horses becomes a quest in itself, each one providing unique advantages in the zombie-infested world. New weapons appear in Undead Nightmare, designed specifically for fighting the undead. The blunderbuss uses zombie parts as ammunition, a darkly comic touch that fits the expansion's tone. Holy water provides area of effect damage against zombie hordes. The torch becomes essential for burning zombie corpses, preventing them from rising again. Mythical creatures appear throughout the expansion. Sasquatch in a quest line that is surprisingly poignant, the chupacabra from Mexican folklore, and even a unicorn that can be tamed. These creatures add whimsy to the horror, balancing the tone perfectly. The graveyard defense missions require players to protect cemeteries from zombie attacks. These missions are challenging and intense, requiring careful resource management and tactical positioning. Successfully defending a graveyard provides safe zones in the dangerous world. The town liberation missions involve clearing zombies from settlements and rescuing survivors. Liberated towns provide safe havens and access to supplies, but can be lost again if not defended. The missing persons quests involve finding survivors scattered throughout the world, adding human interest to the supernatural chaos. The story of Undead Nightmare follows John as he searches for a cure to the zombie plague. His family has been infected, and he must find a way to save them. The quest takes him across the transformed world, encountering familiar characters in unfamiliar circumstances. The story provides closure of a sort, an alternative ending that some players prefer to the main game's tragedy. The multiplayer mode of Red Dead Redemption, called Free Roam, allowed players to explore the entire map with others. The mode was revolutionary for its time, creating a shared Western world where players could cooperate or compete. Gang hideouts could be assaulted together, providing challenging cooperative content. Competitive modes like shootouts and capture the flag variants offered structured PvP experiences. The multiplayer featured its own progression system, with levels unlocking new characters, mounts, and titles. Posses allowed players to form groups and tackle challenges together, creating identity and camaraderie among players. The multiplayer characters included both original creations and characters from the single-player campaign. Players could unlock legendary figures like Landon Ricketts, or play as members of the various gangs. The character variety added personality to the multiplayer experience, with players choosing avatars that reflected their playstyle or preferences. The multiplayer maps included the entire single-player world, allowing players to explore familiar locations with friends. The scale of the multiplayer world was unprecedented for its time, creating a sense of freedom and possibility. Players could hunt together, rob stagecoaches, or simply explore the frontier as a group. The Undead Overrun mode in multiplayer pitted teams of players against waves of zombies, requiring teamwork and communication to survive. The mode provided intense cooperative gameplay, a different experience from the competitive modes. The multiplayer additions extended the game's value for those who enjoyed playing with others. The critical reception of Red Dead Redemption was overwhelmingly positive, with review scores averaging in the mid-90s across platforms. Critics praised the game's world, story and gameplay, recognizing it as a landmark achievement in open-world design. The game won numerous Game of the Year awards, cementing its place in gaming history. The commercial success matched the critical reception, with the game selling over 15 million copies worldwide, proving that Western settings could appeal to a mass audience. The game was praised for its technical achievements, its narrative ambition, and its attention to detail. Reviewers noted the quality of the voice acting, the beauty of the landscapes, and the emotional impact of the story. The ending was particularly discussed, with many critics calling it one of the most powerful conclusions in gaming history. The game proved that Western settings could appeal to mainstream audiences, opening doors for future projects in the genre. The themes of Red Dead Redemption resonate beyond the Western setting. The tension between civilization and freedom, the impossibility of escaping the past, the costs of violence. These themes speak to universal human experiences. The government's betrayal of John reflects historical treatment of outlaws who tried to go straight, where the system didn't care about redemption, only eliminating threats. The title itself, Red Dead Redemption, speaks to the game's central paradox. John seeks redemption through violence, trying to earn peace by killing. The contradiction is never resolved because it can't be. Violence begets violence, and John's attempts to protect his family ultimately doom them. The redemption he achieves is personal, a matter of his own soul, but it doesn't save him from the consequences of his past. Beecher's hope, John's ranch, represents everything he's fighting for. The name suggests hope, a new beginning, a chance at a different life. The ranch is modest but sufficient, a place where a family could build something lasting. The peaceful missions at Beecher's Hope show what John's life could be, the simple satisfactions of honest work. The destruction of this hope is what makes the ending so devastating. The Blackwater Massacre is referenced throughout the game, a pivotal event that occurred before the story begins. This botched ferry robbery led to the deaths of innocent people and marked the beginning of the end for Dutch's gang. The massacre is why the government is hunting the former gang members, why John has been forced into his devil's bargain. In Red Dead Redemption 2, we see the immediate aftermath of the massacre, though the event itself remains unseen, adding to its mythic weight. The relationship between John and Dutch is the emotional core of the game's backstory. Dutch saved John's life when he was young, took him in, gave him purpose and family. John believed in Dutch's vision of freedom and justice, followed him through years of outlawry. The betrayal that ended their relationship, Dutch leaving John for dead after a robbery gone wrong, haunts both men. When they finally confront each other, there's grief beneath the anger. the pain of a broken bond that can never be repaired. The philosophy that Dutch espoused, freedom from government control, living outside society's rules, taking from the rich to survive, sounds noble in theory. But the game shows how that philosophy corrupted over time, how Dutch's idealism became justification for violence as selfishness. By 1911, Dutch's speeches about freedom ring hollow, the words of a man who has lost his way but can't admit it. The game critiques the outlaw mythology, even as it celebrates it. The Bureau of Investigation represents the new order that's replacing the old. In 1911, the Bureau was still young, still establishing its methods and reach. The game shows federal power expanding, reaching into territories that were once beyond government control. Edgar Ross and his methods, blackmail, betrayal, murder disguised as justice, represent what the frontier is becoming. The outlaws may be violent, but the government is worse. It's violence sanctioned and systematic. The technology of 1911 is visible throughout the game, marking the transition from the Old West to the modern era. Automobiles appear in Blackwater, strange and noisy machines that represent the future of transportation. The telegraph connects distant settlements, allowing rapid communication across vast distances. Trains run on schedules, their routes connecting the frontier to the wider world. The technology is changing everything, making the skills of men like John obsolete. The architecture of the game settlements reflects their histories and characters. Armadillo is rough and temporary, wooden buildings that could be rebuilt after a fire or abandoned if the town fails. Blackwater is more substantial, brick and stone structures built to last. The Mexican towns have their own style, influenced by Spanish colonial architecture. Each settlement tells a story through its buildings, revealing the aspirations and limitations of its inhabitants. The landscapes of Red Dead Redemption are characters in themselves, each region with its own personality and mood. The deserts of New Austin are harsh and unforgiving, beautiful in their starkness. The mountains of tall trees are majestic and dangerous, home to bears and other predators. The plains of West Elizabeth are greener and more settled, showing what the frontier becomes when civilization takes hold. The variety of landscapes creates visual interest and gameplay diversity. The draw distance allows players to see for miles, creating a sense of vast open space. Mountains on the horizon are not just backdrops, but actual locations that can be reached. The technical achievement of rendering such distances on 2010 hardware was remarkable. The sunrises and sunsets are among the game's most beautiful moments, with the sky filling with colour and the landscape transformed by the changing light. Many players pause their journeys to watch these transitions, appreciating the artistry that went into creating them. The lighting creates atmosphere throughout the day-night cycle. The harsh noon sun creates sharp shadows and washed-out colours. The golden hour before sunset bathes everything in warm light. The blue hour after sunset creates melancholy beauty. The lighting is dynamic and responsive, changing with weather and time to create endless variety. The shadow system adds depth and realism to every scene. Shadows move with the sun, lengthening and shortening as the day progresses. Interior shadows create atmosphere in buildings and caves. The shadow system is technically impressive and artistically essential, contributing to the game's visual identity. The fire that can spread through the world creates dynamic and dangerous situations. Shooting lanterns or using fire-based weapons can ignite the environment, with flames spreading realistically. The fire system adds tactical options and environmental hazards, making the world feel more interactive and dangerous. Wildfires can occur naturally, adding to the sense of a living world. The women of Red Dead Redemption occupy various roles in frontier society. Bonnie McFarlane runs a ranch, demonstrating that women could hold power and property even in a male-dominated world. Abigail's past is acknowledged without judgment, part of the complex history that she and John share. The game treats its female characters with more nuance than many of its contemporaries, giving them agency and depth. The children who appear in the game are few but significant. Jack Marston is the most important, his innocence contrasting with the violence that surrounds him. The presence of children reminds players that the frontier was not just a place of violence, but also a place where families lived and grew. The future that John fights for is embodied in these children. The elderly characters in the game represent the passing of generations. Landon Ricketts is old, his glory days behind him, but his skills remain. Uncle claims age and infirmity to avoid work, though his actual condition is questionable. The elderly remind players that time passes, that even legends grow old, that the frontier John knows will soon be memory. The cemeteries that dot the landscape are reminders of mortality in a violent world. The graves tell stories, names, dates, sometimes epitaphs that hint at the lives that ended there. The cemeteries are atmospheric locations, places where the weight of death feels tangible. In Undead Nightmare, the cemeteries become gameplay locations, places where the dead rise and must be put down again. The churches that appear throughout the world represent the spiritual dimension of frontier life. Religion provided comfort and community in a harsh environment, a framework for understanding suffering and death. The Catholic churches of Mexico are particularly prominent, their architecture and iconography reflecting centuries of Spanish colonial influence. The food and drink is represented through churches and missions scattered throughout the world. The Catholic influence is strong in Mexico, with churches serving as community centres and places of refuge. Religion provided comfort and community on the frontier, and the game acknowledges its importance without making it central to the story. The food and drink of the frontier appear throughout the game, from the saloons where John can drink whiskey to the general stores where he can buy provisions. The diet of the frontier was limited, heavy on meat and preserved goods. The game doesn't simulate hunger or nutrition, but the presence of food and drink adds to the sense of a functioning world where people have basic needs. The wanted posters that appear throughout the world provide information about criminals and bounty targets. Some posters feature John himself, a reminder that he's not entirely welcome in civilized society. The posters are hand-drawn in period-appropriate style, adding to the game's visual authenticity. They serve both practical and atmospheric purposes, providing gameplay information while enhancing immersion. The dust that rises from horse hooves and wagon wheels adds to the atmosphere of the frontier. The particle effects create a sense of movement and environment, making travel feel tangible. Dust storms can reduce visibility and create hazardous conditions. The smoke that rises from fires and gunshots adds visual richness to every scene. Campfire smoke drifts lazily upward. Gun smoke hangs in the air after firefights. The economy of the game creates meaningful choices about how to spend money. Weapons, horses, properties and supplies all cost money, requiring players to engage with the game's various income sources. Bounty hunting, gambling and selling animal materials provide steady income. The economy isn't punishing, but it creates engagement with the world's systems. Money matters enough to influence decisions without becoming a frustrating grind. The newspapers that John can purchase provide context and world building. The articles report on John's actions, describing his deeds in the florid prose of period journalism. They also provide information about the wider world, discussing events beyond John's immediate experience. The newspapers make the world feel larger, suggesting that things are happening beyond what the player directly witnesses. The mines that appear throughout the world represent the extractive economy that drove frontier expansion. Mining was dangerous work, and the miners John encounters reflect this reality. Some are hopeful, believing they'll strike it rich. Others are broken, their dreams crushed by the harsh realities of the profession. The mines add texture to the world's economic landscape, showing another way that people tried to make their fortunes on the frontier. The ranches that dot the landscape represent the agricultural foundation of frontier society. Ranching was hard work, requiring constant vigilance against predators, rustlers, and the elements. The ranchers John encounters are his people, the honest workers he aspires to join. Their struggles mirror his own challenges at Beecher's Hope, connecting his personal story to the broader experience of frontier life. The forts that appear throughout the world represent military power on the frontier. Fort Mercer, where Bill Williamson has established his operation, was once a legitimate military installation. The forts remind players that the frontier was contested territory, that the government's authority was established and maintained through force. The bridges that span rivers and canyons are essential infrastructure in a world where the protagonist cannot swim. The bridges vary from simple wooden structures to more elaborate constructions, reflecting the resources and priorities of the communities that built them. The roads that connect settlements provide easier travel than cross-country routes, though they're not always safe. Ambushes are common on lonely stretches. The ferries that cross bodies of water provide essential services for a protagonist who cannot swim. The ferry rides are peaceful interludes, opportunities to appreciate the scenery while travelling between regions. The stagecoaches that provide fast travel between major locations represent older transportation technology, slower than trains but more flexible in their routes. 100% completion requires finishing all missions, challenges and activities. The requirement is substantial, demanding engagement with every aspect of the game. Achieving full completion unlocks the Bureau uniform, which makes John immune to law enforcement. The reward is fitting, representing John's complete mastery of the frontier. The journey to 100% becomes its own story, a comprehensive exploration of everything the game offers. The difficulty settings allow players to customize their experience, with options ranging from casual to hardcore. Hardcore mode removes the auto-aim feature, making combat significantly more challenging. The setting rewards skill and precision, creating a more demanding experience for players who want it. The difficulty options ensure that the game is accessible to players of varying skill levels, while still providing challenge for those who seek it. The AI that governs NPC behaviour creates a living world that responds to the player's presence. Shopkeepers remember if John has robbed them and may refuse service or call the law. Townsfolk react to John's reputation, greeting him warmly if his honour is high or fleeing if it's low. Enemies coordinate their attacks using cover and flanking manoeuvres. The AI creates the impression of a world that exists beyond the player's immediate actions. The property system allows John to purchase safe houses in various towns, providing places to save, change outfits and store items. Each safe house has its own character, reflecting the town where it's located. The campfires that John can set up in the wilderness provide save points and fast travel options, moments of peace in an often violent game. The journal that tracks John's progress provides a record of his journey, with statistics recording everything from animals killed to miles travelled. The control scheme maps the game's many systems to the controller in intuitive ways. The controls feel natural after a brief learning period, with actions mapped to buttons that make sense. The tutorial missions at McFarlane Ranch introduce the game's systems gradually, allowing players to learn without feeling overwhelmed. The pacing of information delivery respects player intelligence, while ensuring that essential systems are understood. The pacing of the story balances action with quieter moments, creating rhythm and variety. Intense missions are followed by opportunities for exploration and side activities. The pacing respects player agency, allowing those who want to rush through the story to do so while rewarding those who take their time. The balance between directed narrative and open-world freedom is one of the game's greatest achievements. The length of the main story provides substantial content without overstaying its welcome. The campaign can be completed in approximately 20 hours, with significantly more time required for full completion. The length feels appropriate for the story being told, neither rushed nor padded. The game respects player time while providing value for the investment. The downloadable content released after launch extended the game's life. The Outlaws to the End co-op mission pack added cooperative gameplay for those who wanted to experience the frontier with friends. The Legends and Killers pack added new multiplayer characters and maps. The Liars and Cheats pack expanded the gambling and competitive options. The Game of the Year edition, released in 2011, collected the base game and all DLC into a single package, providing excellent value for players who had waited. The original Red Dead Revolver, released in 2004, established the franchise but was a very different game. Revolver was a more linear arcade-style experience, lacking the open-world ambition of its successor. Red Dead Redemption took the Western setting and reimagined it completely, creating something that shared a name but little else with its predecessor. The evolution from Revolver to Redemption demonstrates how franchises can transform while maintaining thematic continuity. The game's title went through several iterations during development. Early concepts explored different names and approaches before settling on Red Dead Redemption. The title perfectly captures the game's themes, the Red Dead suggesting violence and mortality, the Redemption suggesting the possibility of salvation that John seeks but may never achieve. The Rockstar Social Club integration allows players to track their progress and compare achievements with friends. The online features extend the single-player experience, creating community around individual play. Statistics and accomplishments can be shared, fostering friendly competition. The Social Club represents Rockstar's early experiments with connected gaming experiences. The loading screens feature artwork and tips that enhance the experience. The artwork captures the game's visual style, presenting iconic images of the frontier. The tips provide useful information for players still learning the game's systems. The loading screens transform necessary pauses into opportunities for appreciation and education. The credits sequence that plays after the game's conclusion is extensive, reflecting the massive team that created the experience. Hundreds of names scroll past, representing years of work by talented individuals. The credits are accompanied by music that reflects on the journey just completed. Taking time to watch the credits honours the effort that went into creating the game. The localization of Red Dead Redemption brought the game to players worldwide. The game was translated into multiple languages, with voice acting recorded for major markets. The localization preserved the game's tone and meaning across cultures, allowing players everywhere to experience the frontier. The international success demonstrated the universal appeal of the Western genre. The accessibility options in the game, while limited by the standards of its era, made efforts to accommodate different players. The difficulty settings allowed players to adjust the challenge to their preferences. The control options provided some customization for those who needed it. While modern games offer more comprehensive accessibility features, Red Dead Redemption made efforts within the constraints of its time. The marketing campaign for Red Dead Redemption built anticipation through carefully released trailers and information. Each trailer revealed more of the world and story, generating excitement without spoiling key moments. The box art became iconic, featuring John Marston in silhouette against a sunset sky, an image that captures the game's themes of isolation and the dying frontier. The special editions released alongside the standard game offered additional content for dedicated fans. The limited edition included bonus outfits, weapons, and a special horse. The collector's edition added physical items like a playing card deck and a lockbox. These editions catered to fans who wanted more than just the game, providing collectibles that celebrated the experience. The development history of Red Dead Redemption reveals the ambition and challenges behind its creation. Rockstar San Diego spent approximately 5 years crafting the experience, with support from other Rockstar studios worldwide. The development was notoriously difficult, with reports of long hours and intense pressure to achieve the studio's vision. The result justified the effort, creating a game that would be remembered as one of the generation's finest. The Rage engine modifications required for Red Dead Redemption were substantial. The engine had to handle vast open landscapes, dynamic weather, and complex animal AI. The modifications pushed the technology in new directions, creating capabilities that would be refined in future Rockstar games. The engine work represented years of technical development. The texture work throughout the game creates believable surfaces at every scale. The weathered wood of frontier buildings, the dusty leather of John's clothing, the rough stone of mountain cliffs. Every surface is detailed and convincing. The textures hold up remarkably well for a game of this era, a testament to the artist's skill. The character models bring the cast to life with impressive detail. Facial expressions convey emotion. Body language communicates character. The models are detailed enough to support the game's cinematic ambitions, allowing close-up shots that reveal subtle performances. The environmental design creates distinct identities for each region. New Austin's deserts are harsh and beautiful, defined by rock formations and sparse vegetation. Mexico's landscapes are similar but subtly different, with distinct flora and architecture. West Elizabeth's greener terrain suggests a different climate and a different stage of development. The environmental variety keeps exploration interesting throughout the game's considerable length. The interior design of buildings adds depth to the world. Saloons are cluttered with bottles and furniture. Homes reflect the personalities of their inhabitants. Shops display their wares in period-appropriate ways. The interiors reward exploration, revealing details that enrich understanding of the world and its people. The prop design fills the world with period-appropriate objects. Wagons, tools, furniture, clothing. Every object is designed to fit the era and setting. The props are not just decoration but world building, suggesting the daily lives of frontier inhabitants. The attention to prop design demonstrates the thoroughness of the game's historical research. The costume design for characters reflects their roles and personalities. John's practical clothing suggests a working man. Dutch's more elaborate outfit reflects his pretensions. The various gang members are identifiable by their distinctive clothing. The costume design is both functional and expressive, contributing to character development through visual means. The backward compatibility program on Xbox One brought Red Dead Redemption to a new generation of hardware, offering improved performance and visual quality while maintaining the original experience. The 2023 ports to PC and Nintendo Switch finally brought the game to platforms that had been waiting over a decade, introducing the game to new audiences and allowing long-time fans to experience it in new ways. The motion capture technology used in the game was cutting edge for its time. The actors' performances were captured and translated into the game's characters, preserving the nuances of their expressions and movements. The technology allowed for more naturalistic performances than traditional animation could achieve. Watch John's face during emotional scenes, and you'll see subtle shifts in expression that convey more than dialogue ever could. The writing in Red Dead Redemption balances multiple tones and themes with remarkable skill. The main story is serious and tragic, exploring themes of redemption and the death of the frontier. The stranger missions range from comic to horrifying, providing variety and tone. The dialogue captures the rhythms of frontier speech without becoming parody, revealing character through conversation rather than exposition. The writing never feels inconsistent, maintaining the game's identity while exploring different emotional territories. The cutscenes that advance the story are directed with cinematic skill. Camera angles, editing and pacing create sequences that rival film in their craft. The cutscenes reward attention, with details that enrich the story for observant players. The direction demonstrates sophisticated understanding of visual storytelling. The replayability of Red Dead Redemption comes from its open world and varied activities. Even after completing the story, the world remains available for exploration and engagement. The stranger missions, challenges and activities provide dozens of additional hours of content. Many players return to the game years later, finding new details and experiences they missed before. The mission replay feature, added in a later patch, allows players to replay completed missions. The feature addresses a common request from players who wanted to experience favourite moments again without starting a new game. Mission replay preserves the sense of progression while allowing access to specific content. The addition demonstrates Rockstar's commitment to supporting the game after release. The connection to Red Dead Redemption 2 enriches both games. Playing the prequel after the original adds layers of meaning to John's story, showing the events that shaped him and the people he lost. Characters who appear briefly in the first game are fully developed in the second. The ending of Red Dead Redemption 2, which leads directly into the beginning of the first game, creates a seamless narrative across both titles. Together they form one of gaming's greatest sagas. The relationship between Red Dead Redemption and its sequel creates a unique narrative experience. Playing the games in release order means experiencing John's death before understanding his full history. Playing in chronological order means knowing John's fate while watching his younger self struggle and grow. Neither order is definitively correct. Each offers its own emotional journey. Arthur Morgan, the protagonist of Red Dead Redemption 2, is mentioned only briefly in the first game, a testament to how much the sequel expanded the world and its characters. The prequel reveals that Arthur was Dutch's most trusted lieutenant, a man who shaped John's life in ways the first game never explored. The connection between the two protagonists adds depth to both stories. The gang members who appear in both games are transformed by the prequel's context. Bill Williamson, a simple villain in the first game, becomes a more complex figure when we see his earlier struggles. Javier Escuella's loyalty and eventual betrayal gain new meaning. Dutch's descent from charismatic leader to paranoid madman is charted across both games, creating one of gaming's most compelling character arcs. The speedrunning community embraced Red Dead Redemption, finding ways to complete the game in increasingly short times. The speedruns reveal the game's systems in new ways, exploiting mechanics and glitches to achieve impossible-seeming feats. The current world records represent thousands of hours of practice and optimization. Watching speedruns reveals aspects of the game that normal play never shows, from glitches that skip content to routes that minimize travel time. The modding community, limited by the game's console-only status for over a decade, found new possibilities with the eventual PC release, allowing players to modify and enhance the experience. Visual improvements, gameplay tweaks, and new content have been created by dedicated fans. The modding scene demonstrates the game's flexibility and the community's creativity. The mods extend the game's life, providing new experiences for players who have exhausted the official content. The cheats available in Red Dead Redemption provide options for players who want to experiment or simply have fun. Cheats can spawn horses and carriages, make John invincible, or alter the game world in various ways. Using cheats disables saving and achievements, ensuring that they don't trivialize the intended experience. The cheats provide a sandbox mode of sorts, allowing players to explore the game's systems without consequences. The community that formed around Red Dead Redemption remains active years after release. Fans discuss the game's themes, share memories, and introduce new players to the experience. Fan theories about the game's mysteries continue to generate discussion. The identity of the strange man, the fate of various characters, the meaning of certain symbols. The passionate fan base is a testament to the game's quality and meaning. The music of Red Dead Redemption has taken on a life beyond the game. The soundtrack is available for purchase and streaming, allowing fans to experience the music independently. The songs that play at key moments, Far Away, Compass, Dead Man's Gun, have become beloved in their own right. The music carries the emotional weight of the game, evoking memories of the frontier with every listen. The merchandise inspired by Red Dead Redemption allowed fans to bring the frontier into their lives. T-shirts, posters, and collectibles featuring the game's imagery became popular among fans. The cosplay inspired by the game brings the characters to life at conventions and events, with fans recreating John Marston's iconic look complete with scars and weathered clothing. The fan art inspired by Red Dead Redemption fills galleries and social media with creative interpretations. Artists reimagine scenes, characters, and moments from the game in their own styles. The Let's Play videos and streams introduce the game to viewers who may never play it themselves, extending the game's reach and creating shared experiences around individual playthroughs. The retrospective analyses that appear on anniversaries and milestones reflect on the game's significance. Critics and fans alike revisit the game, examining what made it special and how it holds up over time. The retrospectives confirm the game's lasting importance, its continued relevance years after release. The comparison between Red Dead Redemption and other Western games highlights its unique achievements. Few games have attempted the Western genre with such ambition, and fewer still have succeeded. Games like Call of Juarez and Gun offered their own takes on the setting, but none matched Red Dead Redemption's scope and polish. The game remains the definitive Western gaming experience, a benchmark that subsequent attempts have struggled to match. The influence on open-world game design extends beyond the Western genre. The game's approach to environmental storytelling, its integration of side content with main narrative, its attention to atmospheric detail, these elements have been adopted by countless games since. Red Dead Redemption helped define what open-world games could be, setting standards that developers still strive to meet. The storytelling techniques that Red Dead Redemption employed have influenced narrative design across the industry. The integration of story and gameplay, the use of environmental storytelling, the balance between directed narrative and player agency, all have been studied and adapted. The game showed that open-world games could tell compelling stories without sacrificing player freedom. The emotional impact of Red Dead Redemption on players is well documented. Many players describe the ending as one of the most affecting moments in their gaming history. The attachment to John Marston, the tragedy of his fate, the bittersweet nature of the epilogue. These elements create lasting emotional memories. The game proves that interactive media can move us as deeply as any other art form. The academic study of Red Dead Redemption has produced scholarly analysis of its themes and design. Researchers have examined the game's treatment of American mythology, its commentary on violence and civilization, its use of interactive storytelling. The academic attention validates the game's artistic significance, recognizing it as worthy of serious analysis. The cultural impact of Red Dead Redemption extended beyond gaming. The game influenced how people thought about the Western genre, demonstrating that the setting could support sophisticated storytelling. References to the game appeared in other media, and its themes resonated with audiences who had never played it. Red Dead Redemption became a cultural touchstone, a shared reference point for discussions of gaming as art. The legacy of Red Dead Redemption is visible in countless games that followed. The open-world Western became a viable genre, with other developers attempting their own takes on the setting. The game's approach to storytelling, its integration of narrative and gameplay, influenced game design across genres. Red Dead Redemption proved that games could tell stories as powerful as any other medium. The ending of Red Dead Redemption changed expectations for video game narratives. The willingness to kill the protagonist, to deny players a happy ending, was bold and controversial. The ending proved that games could deliver emotional experiences as powerful as any other medium. The impact of John's death resonates years later, a testament to the game's craft. The future of the Red Dead franchise was secured by the first game's success. Red Dead Redemption 2, released in 2018, built on everything the original established. The prequel expanded the world, deepened the characters, and refined the gameplay. Red Dead Online continues the franchise in multiplayer form, allowing players to create their own characters and stories in the frontier world. The possibility of future Red Dead games remains open, with Rockstar's plans unannounced but anticipated. Red Dead Redemption stands as one of gaming's greatest achievements. The game demonstrated that the medium could tell stories as powerful as any film or novel. It created a world that felt real and characters that felt human. It used interactivity to create emotional experiences unique to gaming. Red Dead Redemption proved that games could be art, and its legacy continues to inspire. The frontier that John Marston rode through may be fictional, but the emotions it evokes are real. The beauty of the landscape, the tragedy of the story, the satisfaction of mastering its systems, these experiences stay with players long after the credits roll. Red Dead Redemption is more than a game. It's a journey through a world that never existed, but feels more real than many that do. As the sun sets over the plains of New Austin, as the stars emerge over the mountains of West Elizabeth, as the music swells and fades, we remember why we came to this frontier. We came for adventure, for challenge, for story. We found all of that and more. We found a world worth caring about, characters worth mourning, and an experience worth remembering. The Old West is gone, but in Red Dead Redemption, it lives forever. Every time someone picks up the controller and rides into that sunset, the frontier is reborn. The game preserves something that history has lost, a vision of a time and place that shaped who we are. Red Dead Redemption is a monument to the Western myth, and like all great monuments, it will endure. And so we ride on, through the dust and the dreams, through the violence and the beauty, through the tragedy and the triumph. The frontier calls, and we answer. The story of John Marston is our story now, carried in our memories, shared with those who will come after. Rest now, partner. The trail will be there in the morning. The frontier waits, patient and eternal for those who seek it.